Alrighty, guys. So we're going into the first tribe, and as you kind of remember, they announced the tribes in pairs, and it's on the card library. What's kind of a little bit relevant that I didn't hit too much is on December 3rd, when the patch initially launches, it's going to be these six tribes first: Beast, Dragon, Quibblers, Pirates, Naga, Mechs. So I'm gonna try to hit these first. It is kind of like Naga Dragons are in this, Quibble Beast are in this, and then Pirates are in it, and then Murloc Demon are the next one, and then Elemental Undead are the next one. So what's kind of nice about this is there's only going to be one tribe missing at the start, and then they're going to gradually add in the more tribes. So these first couple patch notes are going to be like the first meta that you have to learn, assuming you are playing on December 3rd on launch. So first, let's go into the Nagas. So main thing with Nagas, their whole like tribe mechanic is a spellcraft, and what spellcrafts are is they're a spell that gets added to your hand, and then if you don't use it that turn, you essentially discard it. So it's a free like temporary buff. Sorry, I guess I missed that. It's a temporary buff. It's generally like going to be played on a minion, and then it only gets that buff for the next turn. So they're kind of just like a lot of temporary stats. There's a couple of minions like Lava Lurker that can make these permanent long term, but let's just start going through them. There's actually a lot of changes on one. So Deep Sea Angler's still there. Mini Myrmidon is back, and let me pause. All right, got this zoomed in, so hopefully you can see it a little bit better. So Deep Sea Angler's still back. This is a like essentially you get to play this as a 2/4. It's not a great minion. Mini Myrmidon is back, which this one's a little bit more relevant because it gives stats, and most of the early Naga are a little bit more health heavy. So a 3/3 is generally a lot better than a 2/4 just for trading. Um, but really, like neither of these are things that you end up using in like a long-term Naga comp. Ominous Seer, Battlecry, the next tavern spell you buy costs one less. What's kind of relevant for this is it's not doesn't need to be this turn. So this actually helps a lot to give you a consistent turn three. So one of the worst things that can happen on turn three is that you get a strike oil, and this makes it so a strike oil costs two. So this kind of bails you out from like the very worst case that you can have, assuming you're playing like a non-econ, non-two cost hero power. Lava Lurker is still around. Really, what we need to pay attention with Lava Lurker is there's any spellcraft effects that are going to be um, the zesty kind of combos. Shell Collector, this is just a really good econ unit. That's really all there is to it. Thaumaturgist. This is a new minion. Spellcraft, get a minion +1/+1 until next turn, improved by every 4 spells you've cast this game. So this is going to be a lot better when you get as a late game just to cycle as a spellcraft. Generally, like let's say you play a spellcraft Naga on turn one, you get this on turn three, you would have gotten 2 spells, and this would be your third, and you might have gotten one like cheap spell during the game. So you're generally only going to get +1/+1 the first time. You might get +2 the second turn with this. As a 4/4 though, it's a pretty reasonable body for a tier 2. And the main thing with this is if you have ways to generate a lot of spells and then you have some type of payoff with that spellcraft, whether it be like a Lava Lurker or we'll see if there's anything else. This seems like a pretty reasonable minion to just cycle in the late game. Gladiator is still around. This is mainly just used as a solid like scammy type unit. Generally, you'll get a little bit of health on it and then a lot of attack, and it can kind of 2-for-1 while you're buffing your other minions. Volcanic Visitor is still around. This is honestly the biggest payoff for this, and what we're going to talk about with Warden of Old is if you get them on something like AFK, getting these minions super early is just a lot of tempo. Giving generally with Volcanic Visitor, your play is to give 2 health. If you have a lot of like scam, divine shield type things, then you go to the attack. I also do the attack if generally if I'm doing like a greedy level up to try and save some health. Word of Old, this is essentially just an econ every turn. Like I said, it's really good with AFK because it makes your turn 3 really clean. Arcane Cannoneer, this is a new one. Whenever this attacks, deal 1 damage to the target. Improved by every 4 spells you've cast this game. So this almost has like a Warp Wing type effect, where if you've played a lot of spells, then this is going. I'm assuming this like attacks first, and then it actually trades in with its attack. Um, But the thing is, like, this first attack can potentially be extremely high, and we're kind of seeing what now it looks like the Nagas are gonna have is this whole like every four spells you've cast kind of effect. It looks like there's a couple of these, so really getting these key like four spell type effects is gonna be very key. And this kind of hits what we kind of saw with some of the spells is let me just like go off of this is there was some like higher cost spells, something like Boundless Potential, where it allowed you to get a tavern spell of a higher tier. So you could use this to go to another spell, maybe take like I don't know, something like Golden Touch. Golden Touch then gives you another spell with um like tier the like triple reward, and you can kind of see how there's kind of like this big payoff now for getting a lot of spells and playing a lot of spells with something like this Arcane Cannoneer. Cannoneer is going to be a late game unit for you, and it's probably a reasonable mid game where like it's going to be doing a 7 attack, maybe another second attack and get like 14 damage off in the mid game, which is a pretty reasonable attack. It plays also really well with like Slippery Slider, which in the current meta. It plays well with Zesty because Zesty is now going to duplicate a spell every turn, so it's essentially a spellcraft of itself. Critter Wrangler is right now kind of used as just a stabilize unit. I imagine it's still going to be that you play it in the mid game just to help stabilize, but it's never really on your like late game board. Slippery Slider is going to be really good with these play like four spells because it gets the spellcraft as one spell and then you get a cheap spell, and because you get two spells you're reasonably getting three spells a turn off of Slippery Slider itself. um Something to look out for, and let's just check it out now, is if the um I think pirates have been announced yet. So I want to check if so they did get rid of Lubber. And that's kind of relevant, is you're not going to be able to use Lubber as a like way to tech for um, more spells. But that would have probably been a comp in itself, doing something like Slider, Lubber, play a bunch of spells to buff like an Arcane Cannoneer. Zesty, you guys know. I think Zesty, the main payoff is going to be something like with this Traumaturgist, where you're getting just a lot of attack buffs that way. Myrmidon's still around. I guess like the big question now is like, would you ever play Myrmidon in this Cannoneer type comp? I guess so you could put like all your buffs on the Myrmidon and then just you don't really give Cannoneer any buffs, but let Cannoneer have a lot of attack on its first like attack. Thrasher is a really good just tech unit. Uh, Darkreese Strategist. Spellcraft, get a random tier 1 Naga, upgrades each turn. Honestly, I see this kind of hard to pay off. I imagine you're mainly going to just use this as econ. Um, like it's kind of hard to keep a minion like this around every turn. It's just very slow for like trying to get like a tier 5 or tier 6 Naga, unless there's like a way to upgrade it quicker, like you do with some of these like play 4 spells to upgrade. Honestly, like if they gave this the like every four spells it upgrades to a different tier, that would have been a really good unit. I just think it's too slow in its current spot. You're probably just going to use it as econ. Glow scales come around. Mainly, you just use this as a like scam tech unit. Showy cyclist. Death rattle. Give your Naga +1/+1. Improved by every four spells you've cast this game. What's kind of relevant with this is it's a death rattle. So I don't think there's any ways to like proc this in the shop phase. So it's really going to be hard to actually get a lot of value off of this. However, let's say you like I'm imagining you can get something like the Cannoneer to like +10. Um, if you give all your minions +10, you play like a Titus instead, and all with this, you have like five Nagas on your board, or yeah, five other Nagas on your board, and you're giving them +20/+20. It's okay. I guess like in the world of like super high rolls, I don't see showing Cyclist being great. I see it being probably a decent like stabilized type card if you're doing Nagas. Going into tier 6, Groundbreaker. After you play a Naga, gain +1/+1, improved by every four spells you cast this game. This is going to be really good in the cycle. This is just a payoff for playing a bunch of Nagas. Ideally, like you want to give this some type of Divine Shield or something, but you're going to be playing a bunch of spellcrafts, and this is going to be another payoff for it. So it plays like a similar purpose to like the Gladiator. Um, the only thing I don't like is like it's almost better to. I guess so. It has more exponential scaling, right? Because it goes plus one, you improve it, it goes plus two. Where Gladiator, like it's just one for um every spell. The payoff of this Groundbreaker though is you're kind of doing like a cycle of play. Something like the Thaumaturgus in your shop, and you're just using that as like a shop cycle spot and getting the payoff for Groundbreaker that way. So you're kind of like cycling the spells and then you're kind of getting the spell crops with it. What's going to be kind of interesting is you have to think about the order that you play stuff a little bit because you're going to be playing a Naga, getting a spellcraft, and you want to play that spellcraft then before you play your next Naga if it puts you over to the next like plus one improvement. Savjz is a really good card for our minion to triple into. It lets you discover a tavern spell. Obviously, like if you're on five and you triple into this, it's only going to be able to give you tier fives. But this is going to be a really good card with the whole play four spells because you're guaranteed getting two spells. You're probably going to be able to get a third spell off of the Savjz spell, and that's just a really good payoff for trying to proc a lot of these effects. So I guess if we're looking at what the Naga core is going to look like, I imagine you're going to have six minions. You're probably going to play two Thrasher just because, Thrasher's a really good scam unit. You're probably going to have Savjz and Groundbreaker, so that's four minions. You probably want to have the Cannoneer as five. You're probably going to be playing one cycle spot with like the Thaumaturgus or actually no, and then Slippery Slider is going to be that last minute. So you have one shop and then one Slippery Slider, and that's probably like your best board. And I guess I'm just thinking, at least comparing it to the current Trinket meta, that seems very weak. Um, Now, I guess the question is going to be as we keep going through the different tribes, is how weak are tribes going to be getting out of the Trinket meta? Because without trinkets were obviously a way to give you more ways to have some type of exponential scaling, and right now the exponential scaling for this is really only with something like Groundbreaker. Arcane Cannoneers not exactly going to be um, like exponential scaling. I guess Corrupted Myrmidon's kind of scaling, exponential scaling, but there's not really too many ways to fit it in there. Really, Nagas are looking mostly like an econ tech class. I imagine like Thrasher is going to be a good minion that you can tech with. Glowscale is going to be a good minion that you can use to cycle and tech. Savjz is going to be a good triple and help, tech. Slippery Slider is not even a bad unit to tech, and really you just use a bunch of these minions in the mid game. I don't see, at least right now, unless the other tribes end up being very weak, Naga being that great. So, anyways, next video, I think we're going to be doing the dragons. So, good luck. Hopefully, you guys are doing your end of season 8 climbs. Hopefully, you're getting wherever you want on the leaderboard, getting on the leaderboards. If you like the content, please like, please comment if there's any other feedback you have, anything else you want to see with these season 9, reviews and predictions. And I'll be, like I said, putting these out for the next week or so. Feel free to subscribe just for a week just to see these and get some predictions from other players. So good luck. See y'all. Bye.